What's wonderful about entertainment is that there's always the next thing to look forward to. For every season that us gamers go through where we feel as though there's very little to get our teeth into, there's always one just around the corner where we're spoilt for choice. Even better is the warm surprises from familiar faces, the unexpected returns of video game franchises that, for just a moment, we forgot how much we loved. I'm Si for WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 video game franchises you didn't realise were coming back. Number 10. Space Channel 5 and Comic Zone. It's rather incredible that for all of its video game missteps, Sonic the Hedgehog has succeeded on the silver screen to quite the extent that it has. Sega is no doubt ecstatic about the Blue Blur's box office performances, which may have something to do with the announcement the company made in August 2022. Partnering with Picture Smart Studios, Sega revealed their intentions to bring two unexpected properties to the big screen with Space Channel 5 and Comic Zone. Space Channel 5 and its immediate sequel were Dreamcast titles that dripped late 90s weirdness with their characterful take on the music genre. As futuristic reporter Ulala, players take part in dance-based combat against aliens and robots. Whilst the franchise returned after a long hiatus in 2020 with a VR spin-off, it's mostly been an IP resigned to appearances in the likes of Sega Superstar Tennis and All-Star Racing. Comic Zone goes even further back into the middle of the Mega Drive era, consisting of just one cutting-edge side-scrolling beat-em-up that starred a writer sucked into the panels of their own art and fighting off a villain of their own creation. Certainly surprising choices for the big screen, but in a strange way too that may well work, and if they do, it's possible that cinema success might mean more sequels for these long overlooked titles from Sega's back catalogue. Number 9. Alone in the Dark. Sometimes horror is all about context. For example, whilst in the harsh light of 2022 the original Alone in the Dark looks like a plasticine disaster, in 1992 it was a game that thrilled and frightened critics and gamers alike. Despite being often emulated, Alone in the Dark as a franchise never really managed to get itself into the public consciousness for very long. The 2008 reboot was a disappointment for most, and in 2015 the series even tried its hand at online multiplayer, which went down like a lead balloon. Perhaps one of the most surprising reveals of the year, and one that deserved to make a bigger splash than it did, Alone in the Dark is returning in 2023 with a totally revised and modern look. Coming full circle, this up-to-date reimagining will take from the stylistic successes of the Resident Evil 2 and 3 remakes, a franchise that wouldn't exist without Alone in the Dark laying the groundwork of fixed camera, monster-infected residential horror. As the original characters, Edward Carnaby and Emily Hartwood, players will explore a deeply terrifying-looking Derceto mansion. The first look trailer for the game doesn't try to hide its influences, but importantly may be a huge step in the right direction for this important name in video game history. Number 8. Tomb Raider. The brand name of Tomb Raider is so powerful that it's been through multiple eras and reboots already, most recently concluding its latest trilogy with Shadow of the Tomb Raider. That is to say, there was always going to be something new for Lara to put her climbing boots on for, but it was more of a question of what and when. In October 2021, Crystal Dynamics celebrated Tomb Raider's 25th anniversary with a video that touched on their plan to unify the timelines of the Survivor trilogy and Core Design's original games, and production began in April 2022. A few months later, podcast Sacred Symbols revealed what appeared to be a casting sheet for the next Tomb Raider title that described Lara as fully embracing her adventurer lifestyle. It also made mention of Lara forming a team around her, promising a very different game from anything that's come before it. You can typically tell if a video game leak is true if the owner of a property does their best to publicly stamp it out, inevitably just bringing more attention to it. Whilst this new installment is probably years away from release, Square Enix diving onto the grenade to try and hide it has all but spelt out that the new iteration of Tomb Raider is certainly taking shape. Number 7. Bioshock. When it comes to first-person perspective shooters that changed the industry, Bioshock is certainly in the conversation. A short series of atmospheric narrative experiences that have created some of the most memorable video game designs of the modern era. In a December 2019 press release from 2K Games, they officially announced that a future Bioshock game was in the works. There were no details on exactly what that would entail, but it was clarified that it was very early in development by a newly assembled team called Cloud Chamber Studios. Helmed by Kelly Gilmore, former producer at Firaxis Games, who you'll know for the Civilization and XCOM series, Cloud Chamber was put together expressly to work on a new Bioshock title. Considering it's been a year and a half since that announcement and we haven't seen so much as a piece of promotional artwork, it's understandable if many forgot that such a thing was even happening. With the important legacy of Bioshock as well as the undeniable success of 2013's Infinite, care is most likely being taken to deliver the level of quality that fans expect. With this much time passing and Cloud Chamber presumably still plugging away, it can't be much longer before the big reveal, right? Number 6. S.T.A.L.K.E.R. The original S.T.A.L.K.E.R was one of 2007's most stylish PC shooters that cut through the standard affair of American and Japanese development to give us a truly beautiful, dark survival shooter hybrid from the heart of Europe. The saga that surrounds its sequel is one of confusion, false starts, legal issues, and accompanied dissolution and revival. Ukrainian developers GCS Game World admitted that their 2014 relaunch reveal for S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 was extremely early, and they were merely looking to attract publishers to secure a deal. However, for whatever reason, it seems that GCS are handling all ends of the game themselves, which may explain why we didn't see S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 Heart of Chernobyl until E3 2021. Due to the 2022 Russian military invasion of Ukraine, S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2's release was put on indefinite hiatus. A June 2022 development diary explained that, despite many developers fleeing their homes or joining the Ukrainian military, that the game was still being worked on. With video games, it's done when it's done is always the right approach, and in this instance that goes doubly so. Still, as the final few months of development have now shifted to Prague, it's possible that S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 will be here sooner than we anticipated. Number 5. ARK. ARK Survival Evolved went into early access on Steam in June 2015, 1 month before the release of Jurassic World. As a game all about surviving, capturing and breeding dinosaurs and prehistoric creatures, it was a shrewd business decision that sent it on the path to notoriety. Whilst the game was by no means perfect and certainly never found mainstream appeal, its die-hard fanbase has been devoted to it for years. The continued success of ARK garnered a couple of spin-off titles, but it's easy to forget that its most ambitious is just around the corner. You might think of ARK as that weird, janky survival game, but it's beaten many other video game franchises to the jump to other mediums. ARK, the animated series, is still set to debut at some point in 2022, and it has a stacked voice cast that includes Gerard Butler, Malcolm McDowell, Elliot Page, and David Tennant, just to name a few. The 14-episode run is in post-production and will be heading to HBO Max before year's end. It may serve as a great way to whet the appetite before the main course. First revealed in 2020, this summer the team behind ARK 2 confirmed that the game would finally come to early access in March 2023 and promised a massive new environment, deep combat and exploration mechanics, and dynamic world events. Number 4. Simon the Sorcerer. In 1993, AdventureSoft kicked off the Simon the Sorcerer series that had all the puzzling and good humour that people associate with the point-and-click genre. In fact, the first game in the franchise is often regarded as one of the most recognisable games of its type, especially thanks to Simon's fourth wall-breaking character, first played by Red Dwarf legend Chris Barry. Simon the Sorcerer is a rock of the adventure game genre, but also in his time has sunk like a stone, with later games being hard to track down or outright cancelled due to defunct publishers and failed Kickstarter development. Thus, the most recent releases from the series have been mobile ports of the original game in 2013 and 2018, but Simon has had no new adventures to go on for quite some time. In May 2022, however, a collaboration between Small Things Studio and Leonardo Interactive surprised Simon's shocked fans with a reveal trailer for Simon the Sorcerer Origins. The prequel, charmingly stylized on Saturday morning cartoons, takes place briefly before the first game and is due to land in March 2023. With a date already set, we can be hopeful that the team is on task to finally give Simon his much needed return. In fact, if the studio makes this date, it will be a wonderful way to celebrate the franchise turning 30 years old. Number 3. Payday. Overkill Studios' crime simulator series Payday was one of those sleeper hits that suddenly everyone was talking about. Despite being compared to other online squad-based games, there was nothing quite like it at the time. The frantic energy that it produced in panicking parties of criminals made it a standout title in both 2011 and again in 2013 with its bigger, beefier sequel. First announced in 2016 by Starbreeze Studios, the follow-up to Payday 2 feels like one of those projects that fans have been waiting for so long that hope has dwindled that it might ever become a reality. Clearly, some delay for the next installment was due to monetary issues. A March 2021 statement from Starbreeze revealed that Koch Media had injected cash into the project to not just assist in overcoming developmental hurdles, but make an 18-month window of post-launch games-as-a-service support possible. With a cash injection like that, Payday 3 can't afford to vanish into the ether. Since then, the developers have dropped tidbits of info confirming that the game will bring the classic characters out of retirement and take place in modern-day New York City. Set to arrive in 2023, 10 years since Payday 2, it'll be interesting to see how the franchise fits into the ever-evolving online gaming space. Number 2. Silent Hill. Of the many franchises that gamers are waiting and begging to hear from again, Silent Hill may be one of the most publicly discussed. One of the all-time greats of the horror genre, Silent Hill lost its way and went dark over the last decade, in large part due to Konami's general disinterest in creating console games. The last official Silent Hill media gamers ever saw was the PT demo before its infamous cancellation and removal from PlayStation storefronts. Silent Hill as a franchise isn't dead, however, far from it. Christoph Gans, who directed the 2006 film adaptation, is working on another big screen flick set in gaming's foggiest town, and revealed in the summer of 2022 in his words that it's part of a franchise relaunch in terms of video games. The rumours and leaks have certainly picked up speed and validity within the last year, with notorious Twitter leaker Dusk Golem, who has a solid track record reporting on Monster Hunter and Resident Evil, dropping several images from one of 3 Silent Hill games apparently in production. Konami were quick to remove these images, which is the fastest we've seen them move in anyway, considering for the last 10 years they seem to have been completely checked out on the franchise. Whilst nothing is official, all signs point to something massive on the horizon for Silent Hill. Number 1. The Wolf Among Us. In October 2013, Telltale dropped their prequel to Bill Willingham's Fables comic book titled The Wolf Among Us. Set in a darker world of fairy tales as seen through a film noir lens, it was a perfect match for the company's famed cinematic decision-based storytelling style. Since most gamers weren't necessarily familiar with the source material, it was the closest Telltale got to an original property during this period, which made it as exciting as the obvious names, but in a different, fresher way. It was certainly no Batman, Game of Thrones, Minecraft, etc. Huge, recognisable names that ultimately took too much of Telltale's development bandwidth and meant that the company's shared enthusiasm with their fans for a second season of Wolf Among Us got pushed aside. Unfortunately, when Telltale had to file for bankruptcy and closed their doors in 2018, this follow-up was canned. However, with the relaunch of the company in 2019, there was a small light of possibility for Big B Wolf to return, and sure enough, Telltale announced their intentions to continue The Wolf Among Us. Tight-lipped about the story, the season is expected to drop as one complete package rather than episodically as per the first. The Wolf Among Us 2 is slated for 2023 as an appropriate first title since the company's resurrection. And that's the list. Let us know what you thought of this video down in the comments below, and any other beloved video game franchises that you think most people don't realise are actually coming back. Make sure you like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe and hit that notification bell. I've been Si for WhatCulture, and have a good week.